Beijing hits back. Ancient claims, fierce disputes. Diaoyu's sovereignty unshakable. Tokyo redraws history, China fires facts. Taiwan's fate reignites old wounds. Colonial scars remembered. Post-war promises tested. A regional rivalry sharpened. And Asia holds its breath. China has issued a detailed rebuttal to recent remarks and actions by Japanese officials, sharpening its long-standing positions on the Diaoyu Islands and the Taiwan question. At a regular press briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said the Diaoyu Islands have been Chinese territory since ancient times and that both the historical record and legal basis for China's sovereignty are well documented.
Diaoyu Dao and its affiliated islands have been China's territory since ancient times. China's sovereignty over Diaoyu Dao is supported by clear history and solid legal basis. Ample evidence can be found, including in Japan's diplomatic archives, maps, and writings of historians. The so-called historical records, which are either quoted out of context or largely discredited, only make Japan's illegal claim over Diaoyu Dao all the more untenable.
His comments followed the Japanese government's decision to add 3 new exhibits at its National Museum of Territory and Sovereignty in Tokyo, materials Japan says support its claim to the islands. Chinese officials dismissed the addition as selective and unconvincing, arguing that diplomatic archives, historical maps, and research by Japanese scholars reinforce Beijing's claim rather than undermine it. Beijing also responded to recent comments from Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi, who cited the San Francisco Peace Treaty to argue that Taiwan's legal status remains unsettled. Chinese officials said this interpretation misrepresents the post-war legal framework and ignores binding commitments made by Japan at the end of World War II. They highlighted the Cairo Declaration of 1943, the Potsdam Proclamation of 1945, and Japan's Instrument of Surrender, which collectively affirmed that Taiwan and the Penghu Islands would be returned to China. These documents, they said, serve as the core legal basis for China's recovery of Taiwan and remain central to the post-war international order. By contrast, they argued that the San Francisco Treaty was concluded without major Allied participants, including China, and therefore cannot override earlier agreements. China's response comes amid a wider debate in Japan about regional security, particularly the suggestion by some Japanese leaders that a conflict involving Taiwan would directly threaten Japan's national survival. Beijing views this framing as a departure from Japan's post-war commitments and a worrying signal about its long-term strategic direction. Chinese officials also invoked Japan's colonial rule in Taiwan, noting that decades of political repression, cultural suppression, and violence remain central to Taiwan's historical memory. By pointing to this history, Beijing underscored its concerns about any renewed discussion in Japan linking Taiwan's future to Japan's security role. China maintains that Taiwan is central to its sovereignty and national interests, and it opposes any foreign involvement in matters related to the island's political status. Officials warned that Japan should approach the Taiwan question with caution, given its historical responsibilities and the sensitivity of the issue. Meanwhile, Beijing said any attempt to reinterpret or challenge the post-war settlement risks heightening tensions and undermining regional stability at a time when diplomatic relations in East Asia remain fragile.